Hello everyone, we are proud to share with all of you our research project titled Inclusive SDER Index, a Teaching and Language Learning Pedagogical Preparedness for Visually and Hearing-Impaired Sensory Disabilities Learners. Let me give you some introduction to the study. Inclusive education is currently viewed as a global movement in the world of education. Inclusive education also brings shift in the paradigm of thinking within the education system as well as the social world. It is significant in ensuring all students in Malaysia, including learners with sensory disabilities, are allowed access towards the same education opportunities. However, inclusive education has not been fully adopted by the MOE as the mainstream educational practice, which has hindered the widespread of inclusive education. Based on the figure prepared in this slide, inclusive education for special needs learners ends at secondary school. Therefore, learners with special needs and disabilities unfortunately often choose to end their education pathway after secondary school. In line with the Sustainable Development Goals (SDG), education is a fundamental element to provide everyone with independence and knowledge. All learners have the right of access to education, including learners with disabilities and also impairments. This study aims at investigating the level of preparedness of tertiary institutions in Malaysia in terms of supporting inclusivity for learners with sensory disabilities, as well as to support the government's inspirations towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals (SDG). The first objective of this research is to investigate the readiness of higher learning institutions in Malaysia in meeting with the needs of learners with sensory disabilities. Objective number 2, to review current language-related courses and the pedagogical readiness of those courses in meeting the needs of learners with sensory disabilities. And the third objective is to identify IPTA and IPTS that are ready to offer programs for learners with sensory disabilities.
The Inclusive SDER Index is made up of 63 items, and all of these items investigate the teaching and learning pedagogical preparedness of both visually and hearing impaired learners, especially those who are categorized to have sensory disabilities. And we are actually investigating how ready are these institutions in preparing to cater for this group of students. The piloted questionnaires were formulated into 4 sections, namely learning resources and course delivery, assessment mode, facilities or assistive devices, and last but not the least, instructor readiness for a specific language teaching and learning program. As for the methodology, the questionnaire were divided into 4 sections first, followed by items validation, and a review and amendments were later on made based on the feedback that was received upon the validation. These items were then distributed for a pilot study, and the findings were later analyzed. And last but not the least, the Inclusive SDER Index copyright was submitted, and various other recognition was received for its inventiveness. We have currently reached the final phase of this particular innovation, whereby next year for phase 3, we will be focusing completely towards the development of digital version of the index via a secured grant. The next 3 slides will display the theoretical framework in which we applied while developing this index Two main theories were used, followed by the conceptual framework of the innovation.
For novelty and inventiveness, Inclusive SDER Index stands as the first index and survey which examines both ESL instructor and institutional preparedness towards catering for inclusivity, especially for language-related courses. Most other surveys or questionnaires focus on preparedness at school levels, which are primary and secondary schools, and however, this index prepares institutions to focus on the extension of the school learning, especially for learners with sensory disabilities.
The innovation has achieved several gaps, and it is highly practical and useful mainly for the teaching and learning of languages and how this can actually be used and adapted to cater for learners and to accommodate for learners who are of specific disabilities. This index can be adopted and adapted as a readiness tool for inclusivity, and it can also be used as a reviewing tool for various tertiary institutions who might have at this point implemented thought courses or subjects which can cater to learners with sensory disabilities. The main idea is to make sure that education is made possible for everyone and to not leave out any learner. The index also highlights on the subject of inclusivity for all in education as proposed in the SDG goals that were explained early on. That would be the end of our presentation for this innovation. Thank you.